The C Programming Language, Second Edition. Book by Kernighan and Ritchie. Preface. The computing world has undergone a revolution since the publication of C programming language in 1978. So the first edition of the book was published in 1978. Big computers are much bigger. Personal computers have capabilities that rival the mainframes of a decade ago. During this time, C has changed too, although only modestly, and it has spread far beyond its origins as the language of the Unix operating system. During there were mainframes to which people hooked their terminals to, but now we have personal devices like laptops and smartphones. So C was originally built alongside with Unix. The growing popularity of C, the changes in the language over the years, and the creation of compilers by groups not involved in its design combined to demonstrate a need for a more precise and more contemporary definition of the language than the first edition of this book provided. In 1983, the American National Standards Institute (ANSI) established a committee whose goal was to produce an unambiguous mission-independent definition of the language C, while still retaining its spirit. The result is the ANSI standard for C. So that is why the book is written. It is to produce an unambiguous and mission-independent definition of the language. The standard formalizes constructions that were hinted at but not described in the first edition, particularly structure assignment and enumerations. Structures and enumerations. It provides a new form of function declaration that permits cross-checking of definition with use. It specifies a standard library with an extensive set of functions for performing input and output, memory management, string manipulation, and similar tasks. It makes precise the behavior of features that were not spelled out in the original definition and at the same time states explicitly which aspects of the language remain mission independent. So, in the first edition, when the book is published, when the language is defined, the standard library was not defined. Each compiler provided their own standard library, but now they have defined which all functions to include in the standard library. For example, the print function, which we will see later. The second edition of this C programming language describes C as defined by the ANSI standard. Although we have noted the places where the language has evolved, we have chosen to write exclusively in the new form. For the most part, this makes no significant difference. The most visible change is the new form of function declaration and definition. Modern compilers already support most features of the standard. We have tried to retain the brevity of the first edition. C is not a big language and it is not served by a big book. So this book which I am reading by Kernighan and Ritchie, it is a small book of around let's say 300 pages, less than 300 pages. It is not served well by a big book. We have improved the exposition of critical features such as pointers that are central to C programming. We have refined the original examples and have added new examples in several chapters. For instance, the treatment of complicated declarations is augmented by programs that convert declarations into words and vice versa. As before, all examples have been tested directly from the text, which is machine readable form. Appendix A, the reference manual, is not the standard but our attempt to convey the essentials of the standard in a smaller space. It is meant for easy comprehension by programmers but not as a definition for compiler writers. That role properly belongs to the standard itself. So they are providing in Appendix A, they are providing defining the standard but not the standard as a whole. Appendix B is a summary of the facilities of the standard library. It too is meant for the reference by programmers, not implementers. Appendix C is a concise summary of the changes from the original version. As we said in the preface to the first edition, C wears well as one's experience with it grows. This is a this sentence here, right here. It wears well as one's experience with it grows. Once you gain more and more experience, you find the language more beautiful. With a decade more experience, we still feel that way. We hope that this book will help you learn C and to use it well. Then we have the acknowledgements and sincere thanks to all Kernighan and Ritchie. So in our content section, we have finished the preface. Next, we'll be looking into preface to the first edition. Thank you.